Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and more Blood and Plunder here as we continue on with Raise the Black factions. Now we've had the French Caribbean Militia before when we were looking at No Peace Beyond the Line, but again, with everything here, this is sort of the newer version of that force in the time period 1700 to 1730, so definitely go back and check out our old video there. And you'll see a lot of similar themes, although different units here and slightly different style to it. So let's jump right in. Force special rules: once per turn, a single unit in this force that is not mounted and is not assigned may take a free move action at the end of its activation. This activation may not be used to initiate or move away from a melee combat, which is all well and good, but let's think about what that is, right? We're not paying any points for that specifically, so that's always nice when we don't have to pay for a special rule like this. And again, it's a once per turn as well, not a once per game like some of the factions will have rules. Once per turn, so with the caveat, we're not mounted, we're not assigned to something, and we can't get into or get out of combat as a way of using this ability. Aside from that, it's super flexible, and we get a lot of neat benefits out of that. So that lets us do a little bit of hit and run tactics with units that are going to be shooting, and just all around a great ability, or just moving closer to an objective if we need to, or some other critical point in or on the battlefield. So a fantastic force special rule right there. And if you think about it too, let's say we're using that to get the commander's unit into a range where he will have a greater impact with his command range to be able to affect more units. That's just another great way of using that. Now the core unit's somewhat similar to the old list, although we've seen some updates here, but from before, I think we had the Milice des Caribes or the Miliciens. I think that's there. Now we're getting later flibustiers though, and then also the Compagnie Franche de la Marine or Fusiliers. So again, choices there. So it seems like it's only 3 units, but again, we have actually 5 there. It's the Caribbean Militia, right, or the Miliciens. Flibustiers are just what they are, right? No options there. But then we can do the French Marines essentially, or Fusiliers if we wanted that. So, but we have to make the choice there, right? It's not both; it's or for that. Now, the support units were pretty spoiled there, and that we'll get into one of the other options that we have later. We have the mounted militia, essentially, milice à cheval, the artillery, another choice here. So again, technically we could have one more bullet point, but we're having to make the choice. So we could have unaligned artillerymen or marins. We got French grenadiers, which good stuff there. We got boucanier and boucaniers. And then Marins, Basque, so basically Basque Marines. Pretty cool stuff there. And again, bringing in a whole lot of new units that we didn't have in the older list. So between the two, we've got all kinds of flexibility. We got great combat units, really good shooting, and we got mounted, and we can even bring artillery as well. So we kind of cover all the bases here, even though it's, again, a militia-themed list. Command options: any of the standard commanders. Henri Louis de Chavagnac is our special character option should we go there. But one of the great things with this list, and one of just the fun things in Blood and Plunder in general, aside from the fact that there's just an insane amount of options, which will always keep the game fresh, that's one of the high points of the game for sure, is when we get force options. So in addition to all of the above, right, which there's so many options here as far as, what size of game are we playing? Are we playing on land or the water, right? There's just all these different factors. What's the scenario itself, and so on and so forth. And how best do we take advantage of that force special rule? But if you don't like the list as is, here we have one of these force options, which really will change the way that this plays. So we can take a Milice Cheval as a core unit, or just take that whole unit as a core unit, if we really build around it, and that's pretty neat. So taking it from support to core, we're not having to sacrifice anything from core like sometimes these swaps will require. So it's really just if we want to commit to a decent little cavalry portion of the list, then it can become core, and that means we can take more if we really want to go that route. And then we save the infantry maybe for the support or who knows what. But anyway, so we have to we get to take them as core if we include at least 2 units of them, 2 units of Milice à Cheval, And we got to get the commander mounted as well, which again, you pay the extra point or whatever for that, not a big deal. But then this becomes a more cavalry heavy force, which again, you don't necessarily think of like militia as having like all these cool options in general. But here, this is actually a pretty neat shift in how we can approach the list building for it. Now, cavalry is going to be more expensive in general, so that's going to factor in on just the overall body count. But again, that cavalry lets us get around the board pretty dang fast, and we can do some neat options with that, especially in scenarios that require us to maybe cover more ground and get to certain places, but also take the fight to the opponent pretty heavily. So again, the commander's got to be mounted, so naturally we're probably going to leave some of the force behind just because they can't keep up. So really the commander's command range is going to be focused on, you know, the cavalry that's around him. Probably not going to spread that cavalry out too much just to get the full effect there. But it doesn't really interfere so much with everything else that we have going on. Now, the force special rule is still for units that are not mounted, right? That's one of the caveats. Otherwise, that would be pretty ridiculous as to how fast that cavalry could go. But we still have plenty of other units that we could use to sort of use that ambush style maneuvering there that special rule would allow us to, with either, you know, that a free move towards an enemy or away from them, hit and run, kind of pop in and out of terrain, or just you know, use that extra move to maybe try and keep up with the cavalry as well. So you can figure out which of those units would be best purposed for that. But all in all, for a militia list, we've got a lot of great choices here. Like I said, it kind of covers just all the bases. It just really depends on, again, you know, do we want to go sort of vanilla here? Do we go cavalry heavy? And then do we just go generic, or with Henri Louis, which if we haven't covered them yet, we'll be covering them soon. So stay tuned for that. But it's a neat list without any other crazy bells and whistles or major restrictions. It just seems to kind of work. Let us know in the comments, guys, if you've built a French Caribbean militia list as far as this later version goes, and how do you feel that stacks up with the sort of the OG version, but also just in general how it's performed for you and where you feel its strengths and weaknesses are. Hit us up in the comments, like and subscribe, and we'll have more Blood and Plunder for you soon.